I haven't taken much time to talk about this story, but when I look at the Billboard Hot 100 and you look at, certain songs that become major hits, right? Where all of a sudden the song streams and it just hits nonstop. At the moment, Blinding Lights is a song that's been on the chart for 85 weeks now. Ridiculous amount of time. But it's a good song. People still listen to it. And, what are you going to do? And there's some songs that they hit, and then just because of streaming alone, a song will just stay up on the charts and just stay up there for weeks. As we know with Despacito, which was the Luis Fonsi, Justin Bieber hit. And then you have the same thing with Old Town Road and Lil Nas X, which ran for 19 weeks. It's the longest running Billboard Hot 100 #1 hit of all time. And then you had other songs like just this year with Olivia Rodrigo and Driver's License hitting 8 weeks at #1. But you're not getting that much anymore right now. We do have BTS's Butter, which has been up there on the chart now for what I think it was 6 weeks now. Olivia Rodrigo get #1 with Good For You. Meanwhile, it hit for 5 more weeks at #1 on the official chart in the UK. And then BTS, just the gimmick where they manipulate the sales, getting the BTS army to go ahead and buy the records to get the song up to #1. Just for the fact of that. So we know Billboard's already got a lot of issues with their whole algorithm and their whole calculation, the methodology of getting the songs up there. So Music Business Worldwide talks about this, the hit record, and the attention and investment to the record company's trying to make. New figures out this week in the U.S. suggest that hits as a blockbuster industry dominant mega hit are becoming a lesser spotted beast. Despite millions of people playing music on streaming services each year, the industry's biggest streaming hit at the midpoint of 2021 is smaller than the biggest streaming hit at the midpoint of 2020, 2019, and 2018. At the moment, #1 song, biggest hit streaming, according to MRC data, is Driver's License, which has attracted so far 460 million on-demand audio streams during the first 6 months. A lot of plays. But then if you compare it, the biggest song of 2020 was Roddy Ricch's The Box, which was 728 million audio streams. Life is Good by featuring Drake had just slightly more than the Driver's License at their same point in 2020. Old Town Road, Lil Nas X, 596 million audio streams in the first half of 2019. And Drake's God's Plan pulled 655 million audio streams. So these were songs that were regularly up at #1. Remember that. Life is Good featured Drake actually stayed around #2 consistently and did hit #1. And then Roddy Ricch's The Box was up there at the top of the charts for a long time. I forget how many weeks it was up there, but it was up there for quite a bit of time. Same thing, 2017, Ed Sheeran's Shape of You, which was the #1 song of that year, was at 354 million streams, so it wasn't as big. But it's still odd. And if you look at it all together, that's what's going on. So the question is the death of the mega hit narrative as a simple explanation. One of the things they talk about is that fact that Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License simply isn't as popular as the other tracks mentioned. Well, it's the first hit for Olivia Rodrigo. And it was also not followed along with an album, which it did now, right? You just put it out there in January of all times. Usually a song like that would hit in March or April, right in the spring into the summer. And then the song would just blow up. But that's not what happened here. So they go through a bunch of graphs here in Music Business Worldwide and talking about that. And they make the point of it. So it still comes down to the fact of how we have Billboard's Hot 100 and what they're doing to kind of identify what songs are hot and which ones stay at the top of the charts. And it is kind of interesting on what they're doing here and how songs stay where they're at. It's fascinating. So you look at a song like Levitating, it's been up there for 40 weeks, and it only got as high as #2. There's songs that stream, but to get that overall super streaming effect, like you just mentioned with God's Plan of The Box, or even Rockstar, if you want to put that in there, which also was a song that stayed up on the charts for a long time, it just kind of changes up. And some songs just don't have that lasting power like they would on other songs. It's just what comes down to. It's a very fascinating subject that comes down to this. But it's still, for me, It's the changes that are going on where if a song hits good on streaming, and then radio gets to go and take up so much of a space where like a song like Levitating right now stays prominent because of the fact that, they have, for whatever reason, they got a thing going on with them where, the songs that are going up to the top of the charts, they just got a thing where you can look at predictions, you can look at the numbers that they have for particular songs and what they're doing and how they kind of just put it together and just say, okay, you have songs that just get such a hit from airplay and other things and what they're able to do. And it's just so much. So this past week, the week ending July 17th, predictions were made for the songs that were up here. And if I look at the charts right now, Butter getting 105,000 sales, which is the reason that the algorithm calculated them to have the most points towards being number one, which if they've been up 7 weeks at number one. Or they've been there for 7 weeks, and they peaked at number one for the last 6. Levitating and Dua Lipa, that song's airplay is 81.1 million measurements, which brings it up to the top 3. Meanwhile, sales are down to 8,000, and streams are only 19 million, compared to others that are still quite up there. Like, some of the things that I have here to kind of identify and calculate are not too bad, because if you look at streaming does matter quite a bit, but the airplay matters a lot. But then in some cases, sometimes it doesn't. So for instance, Aaron Lewis, a country singer that put a song called I'm the Only One, 59,000 sales for his record. But meanwhile, streaming and airplay were minimal. So that got it up to number 14 as a new song in this particular chart. And you can look at other things and do the same thing, but then you look at other songs and see the streaming ability. And if you look at the top 10 of the songs that they have, you have to at least reach about 15 million streams and between 30 and 70 million airplay hits to be able to go ahead and get themselves to a particular spot. So that can be made a point. They also look at units sold or units altogether of what they're either downloading, I guess is the idea. That's the download numbers, which is also consumed and actually is more of a representation of what there is altogether. But then they also calculate the numbers and they decide to go where they're going to go with the numbers. And that's their idea. So, I don't know. There's a lot here. I don't like where the gimmick goes a lot, where they have certain songs and where they put them. It's kind of wonky. Because then there's some songs that might get quite a bit of airplay on the radio, but they don't perform that well. Like, for instance, Telepatia, Kali Uchis, has 37 million streams, but then she's all the way down at number 33. And then you have Blame It On You, Jason Aldean, and when it comes to country, but again, not much in sales and very low on the streaming, but then still gets to be top 30. Like, there's a lot that goes on here. And, to see like a BTS Butter, listen, I understand the song got to be number one. I don't like the fact that it was actually staying up there for as long as it has. 6 weeks of number one is a little bit overkill. Because even Dynamite didn't stay up that long. To see it come up and come down because of the manipulation, that should be what actually happens. You see the gradual come up, come down, which is what most album bombs get. And that's fine. But when you're going to go and just rig things with the bundles and doing the sales thing to rig the system, that has to get changed. So it's understanding the death of the mega hit, what they're saying right here in music business worldwide, that's one thing. But for me, you can go to the stats all you want. It's all Billboard that needs to get their shit together. Just saying. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll talk to you next time.